Welcome to the remote working webinar, the Vapour remote working webinar this morning. Would you like to be joined by our illustrious leader, Tim Mercer? Good morning, Tim. Chris James-Mann, who runs the IT at JCT 600, and Damien Gelder, who is the technical lead at one of our fastest growing partners, Q2Q, and also the heavyweight champion of the world when it comes to technology metaphors. So hopefully a few of those will come out today as we go through the topic. So remote working, massive talking point for everyone this year, more than ever, after the office hokey cokey that we've all enjoyed a couple of times during the lockdown of 2020. So we've brought two guys on board today who have both experienced it from a delivery to their users' perspective and a delivery to their customers' perspective as well. And I know Tim's got some broad talking points that he's going to take us through today as well. So ask any questions in the box, in the chat box along the way. We can pick them up at the end. The broadcast will be sent out to all attendees and anyone that's registered along after the webinar as well. And I'll pass over to Tim to crack on.
Thanks, Emma. I just see that bottom thing. I just had to explain that that's obviously not Emma. That's Al, who's using Emma's login. All right. Morning, everyone. Morning, Chris. Morning, Damien.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. Okay, so we've got about 6 or 7 topics that I want to cover today. And really, it's about getting a perspective from Chris, from your side of working inside that big business, a couple of thousand employees, and Damien working with your partners as well and seeing how that. So we've got two sort of slight different views on the model, which is why I've asked you both to come on. So Damien, I'll start with you really, and then because you're at the top of my screen really. First one really, we see the thing. You're on mute all the time. Video calls, you're on mute. So the first question is really about too many video calls and how do we engage and stay human really with that camaraderie with our own employees, but also with our clients as well. So give us a little bit of a feeling around how you feel it from a partner point of view, and then we'll come on to Chris and see a bit from an internal piece as well.
Yeah, so I would say since lockdown, video calls have definitely gone up. I would actually say that's been a reasonable amount of help for getting a little bit more of a personal relationship with clients. You're both at home, you've both got the time, there's no one else in the office shouting at you saying, got someone on the phone for you. You can talk to them about home life, noises in the background, and it's a two-way thing. And I've had some really, really good one-to-one chats on video, on telephone, and I would actually say it's helped. I do miss the personal touch of going to see someone, because there's nothing like going out and shaking someone's hand and having a cup of tea with them, but it's just a new challenge, a new way of dealing with things, and I think it's been really helpful.
Do you think that the opportunities move on faster because you can engage quicker with your clients?
Yeah, most definitely.
Rather than waiting for a week for a meeting or whatever, you can actually get on a call and have that video call fairly quickly.
Definitely. The opportunities, rather than driving to one end of the country to go see someone versus let's have a video call in 30 minutes, makes it incredibly powerful to step through those hoops at a much faster pace than dragging it out, having meetings and scheduling times, or even just having a call. People are far more flexible to a video meeting versus a on-premise one, which could be 10 minutes to an hour out of someone's time just for traveling, let alone actually taking and engaging with the client.
Chris, what's it been like at JCT? How have you seen it from an engagement point of view internally? Have the board embraced it, and do they use it? Or
yes.
How's it feel?
Yeah, it was forced. I mean, the board, they were the first to adopt and run down the Teams route. It was not a choice thing. You do this or you die as a business. It was all meetings went immediately online. The take up was slow initially from around the group, but now it's day to day. Even just having a conversation, if you're in the same room, has gone from you know, walking over and standing by someone or sitting with them or having a coffee with them. That's gone, and suddenly you can be talking to somebody in the other side of a room on Teams to keep social distancing. So if anything, it's actually increased our contact, and I think the focus for us has moved from communication actually to well-being, where we've now started to focus on making sure we're touching base with the people on a regular basis, because everyone feels so alone in the business place. You know, it's you think you're getting loads of work done sat in your bedroom or in your little office at home, but it's actually becomes quite soul destroying after a period of time. So we've really have had to schedule in some very regular communication with our staff now.
Yeah, no, I get that, mate. I get that. And let's move on a little bit around. As I said, I've got about 7 questions, so about five minutes of topic. Challenges, Damien. Challenges remote working from home. But how do you feel it? How do you think the clients feel it for now? And what do you think is going to happen moving forward?
Okay, so initial challenges were equipment and connections. There's a lot of people out there that don't have a personal laptop. Companies where people might have a thin client on the desk, they just don't have any equipment to give to the employee and say, right, take that home, carry on working. They had to source them, get them set up. And that's not even introducing the problems of they might not have the right IT mechanisms to take everyone off site, such as remote desktop and VPNs. So it was a very quick, how quickly can we get this out there for all these people, set up and out? The challenges following later on to that are things like bandwidth at home. Everyone's got a kid who's got an Xbox who's playing games online or streaming YouTube videos, and that has a big impact for anyone who's at home trying to have a VoIP call or a Teams call, speak to someone, or even just connect to systems. And people forget that it's like trying to drain a pool through a straw when you've got a budget broadband, and people didn't expect this. No one has leased lines at home, and yeah, it's a big difference. Even if you've got a little cottage somewhere out in the...
Yeah, I get that. Did you see, I don't want to tarnish everyone with this, but did you see sort of we saw it, a massive rush, I need this, I need X, Y, and Z. But was it almost like a sticking plaster to get a fix? And is there a long-term strategy then? Is it going to be a different one? Do you see that changing as to actually, I fixed that, I plugged the gap, but actually I now need to have a bit of a strategy moving forward, and that might change a little bit to what we've got today. Do you see that?
Yeah, some clients had the sticking plaster version of, right, let's get them set up on whatever machine they've got available, and then revisit that further down the line once we've accommodated everyone initially working. But as part of our little IT audit that we do, we've got a new box which is remote working and keeping it effective for instances like this. Even if something like their office gets flooded, they can use that, and they've got a DR plan for covering that if ever need it.
Chris, yours must have been a pretty big challenge. You've got what, 2,500 employees, something like that?
Yeah.
50 sites, all gone home.
I suppose the advantage for us was the first thing that happened was we closed our doors, which reduced us from being a 2,500 employee company to a 250 employee company overnight. And of the 250 people, the good thing was all of them already had mobile workstations. They were already, you know, heads of business or brand directors or people traveling around our business on a day-to-day basis. So their transition was quite easy. But what happened then was we had to then think, who's coming back? When are they coming back? What resource do we need for them? And it was a rush. It was everyone gets a laptop, everyone gets a second monitor. But it was as we were creating the plan changed on a daily, weekly basis. How can we make this better? How can we adapt this so it's better for them? And you're revisiting people all the time to improve the performance of what they were getting, or if things weren't capable of doing the job for them. As you say, broadband, it's not great in everybody's house. So, you know, we would go out, we'd start looking at 4G routers. Can we get them to people? Can we get them working? Even to the point where we said, you're not a remote worker. You can't remote work. You're going to have to come back into the business. because your home situation is not capable of it. So it has been a very, very movable task, and having partners like yourself has been really crucial for this, because you helped us put in an infrastructure which allowed us to change it daily, weekly, as fast as we wanted to do it. You were able to accommodate that. But I think first decision was, make sure we've got the infrastructure, the bandwidth, the VPN quantities, in the back end to be able to support this. I think it was leading up to Boris's first conversation with us all. That was what we're all saying, what we're going to need. And we started to order all of that. And I know, certainly speaking to you guys, you had a massive influx of calls for, more VPNs, more bandwidth. We need this, and the pressure on the UK to deliver this, I'm amazed we've actually done it as well as we have, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I must admit I'm quite similar around there. We were busy. We were incredibly busy, as you can imagine, for a couple of months, trying to help everyone. Because, like I say, everybody wasn't always prepared. Lots of them were, and lots of them had 50 people out of 300 that might have been ready, but the rest of them weren't. And so all of a sudden it was like, shit, I need laptops, I need VPNs, I need this, I need that, I need the other. Which is why when you tried to buy a laptop, there was none around, or there were 3 times the money that there was supposed to be, around people making hay while the sun shines, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Chris,
I don't think it stays this way long term. I don't think that home workers, for businesses like ours, which aren't used to it, is going to stay the same. I think we have to have a new way of making a home worker. We're looking at whether we should have a home worker setup. So that's a desk, that's a chair. It's not just you're talking about a laptop. But just give them a laptop, they're not a home worker. They're not. Most people don't have an environment at home where they can go home and work from. I think, Al, you've got about 4 rooms going on in your house.
Yeah. My mate works for Dell, and they did something similar where they are a home worker, specifically a home worker, and they have been before they started. There's a desk for them, a stand up or a sit down one, or a mechanism around there. Are they set up properly, etc., etc. And there's a budget for that, for the home worker to work there, because they're not working from an office. They are literally working from home all the time. So that's slightly different. I'll come on to that in a second, Chris, because I think there's the employees' expectations of working from home is one of the questions and one of the points I want to make. But let me stay with you for a second, because, and I think this is more relevant really for you rather than for Damien, but we'll come on to where Damien sits on it. Changes in board, changes in IT at board level, digital transformation. I know it's a massive term and one that I don't throw around, but was it, I know you've got a digital transformation officer, but did the board understand, because they've got to use it now, the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis? And actually from that point as well, did you go, well, actually, we need to help you, there's more budget, or there's going to be more budget available for you moving forward, because we actually need to be in a better position? How did that come out of JCT?
We're lucky in some ways, because we don't run a budget situation in the IT department. We run it project by project. It goes on whether the project is actually feasible, viable for the business at the time. So it allows us in times like this to be incredibly flexible with our approach to a solution. And the flexibility was, what do you need? It was a simple answer to the question. If you need more laptops, you get more laptops. You need more VPNs, you get more VPNs. Whatever it takes. Not being able to do business during the pandemic will cost the business more than what IT ever does. We're talking about 40, 50, 60,000, even £1 million cars we have on our stock. And if you can't sell them and you can't interact with customers, a £400 or £500 laptop suddenly becomes a bit of an irrelevant conversation. So the budget was massively opened up, but on the flip side, they then made us all as a group focus on how we can actually create cost savings at the other end. What contracts have we got? What support packages have we got? What do we need? What don't we need? Our strap line during this pandemic has been, if you can't change it, walk away. If you can't influence and change something that's going on in your business, don't keep trying. Stop, walk away, find something you can affect and you can improve in the business.
Okay, interesting. And do you think that's going to filter through because people have got to use it, because we know what it's like a lot of the times when the board members don't necessarily feel the pain sometimes that everybody else feels, but they're at home and they're feeling it, and the broadband might not be great and they might not be working 100%. Do you then have that sense of availability that says, actually, they understand that pain and they can see what we want to do moving forward, becoming a little bit different? You know, we've got to probably sell cards in maybe a slightly different way, maybe a bit more online, maybe a bit different. So there's an actual understanding then from the board and the senior management team to be able to push that forward for it, to stay at the top of the game as you are at the minute.
Yeah, they absolutely. They moved a massive amount of our budget towards our customer portal, which was something that's been in development for about 12 months, and they literally fast-tracked that, a bit like they did the virus vaccine. They just went, let's get this out in a month. You know, let's get this live. Let's get customers logging into it. Let's get them interacting with us in a different way. So they completely flipped all their priorities on what we were doing. You know, we don't need to refurbish showrooms. We don't need to build brand new showrooms. Actually, the whole plan for what showrooms we're building next year has changed. You know, we're not gonna build massive offices in big buildings anymore. We're going to look strategically at what's actually required in a dealership going forward.
Well, I know we spoke about that probably 12 months ago, where we were talking about what you were going to do with your dealerships moving forward, and you were already thinking about this plan really before actually the pandemic hit, about how the market might change. So it's quite interesting that you seem to be in front of the game really on that. Damien, same with you. Obviously, you've got much more clients. Chris has got the one client that he looks after in the business with a lot of employees. How did you see it, that change at board level? You know, was a lot more openness to the discussions that you were having. A bit more budget as well. Obviously, people have got to do that. But what does that look like moving forward into 21 and 22, 2022?
Yeah. So coming from the perspective of a lot smaller clients, anything starting from 10 all the way up to 50 or 100, some of our clients don't have a huge board. They've just got a few directors. They rely heavily on us as their complete outsourced IT provider to help them make that decision and effectively hold their hand. They haven't increased a huge amount of spending in some of the areas. Fortunately, the bigger clients already had the options already there to accommodate it, and these smaller clients, they've put some budget in, they've made some changes, but the way they're going to work over the next 5 years, I don't think they need to increase their budget too much to still allow it.
But how do you think that the experience was of understanding it from? And we deal with it. Obviously, we deal with customers at different levels as well. The difference of the understanding of shit. Actually, we need IT a lot more than we thought. Fully enough, because a lot of the time when budgets are going to get cut, and we all know this over the years, IT gets a budget cut. It's just been standard over the years. You know, a business says, I need to save some money. You're not getting as much money. It feels now what we're speaking to customers about and partners about is actually the people that Chris has just said, where can you make cost savings in other parts of the business, and where can you invest in that IT then moving forward? That's how it feels. I hope so. Anyway. I hope that's right.
Yeah, people always believe that IT is a go-to for making such budget, but what they forget is it's almost the wheels on the car. You just can't say, yeah, let's just get rid of wheels on the car. We're fine. We've got air conditioning. We've got CD play. We've got seats. No, the car is going nowhere without those wheels. And it is a wake-up call really quickly when they get on the driveway to start the engine and go, whoa, what happened to the wheels? Yeah, you took all the money out of that. Right, let's get it back now. And they only realize that when they want those wheels. And they don't realize how good those wheels often need to be until it's
I knew we'd slip one in there, Dave. I knew we'd slip somewhere in the half hour. Brilliant.
The analogies were coming out. Fast and quick there. Must have been. So let me come on to another section then. And Damien, I'll take it off for you here because I think this might be slightly more prevalent for smaller customers around security. So prevalence where they would have an understanding really of what that security policy is, which you would look after and support in essence.
Yeah.
They're then going home, right? So lots of people are going home. We talked about having that crappy broadband at home. Yeah. They're potentially going to have a crappy router at home. Yeah. They probably haven't changed the password on it. They probably haven't changed the policies on it for a period of time. How are you seeing and how are you advising your clients around that area of that cyber security and that threat, those phishing threats, whatever it may be? You must have seen a large upskill in that, an uptake in that.
Oh yeah. So what we did at the start of the pandemic is we sent out a really, really long email that was very informative to the leaders of all of our clients. The email stepped through with things like home working, some really basic checks too, because obviously our time was important to get people set up. We thought they could do some basic checks first, such as, has it got antivirus? Has it got Windows updates? What version of Windows is it? Because we had to reduce that amount of time spent with everyone in the first couple of weeks so that we could make a bigger impact on what the client perceived as the most important people to get set up. So if they didn't have the right equipment, we could then tell them as soon as possible, look, Billy at home doesn't have this equipment. You've got to get him something if you want him to work really quick. And that's exactly what we delivered. People came back to us with not quite a survey completed, but they knew what they needed, we knew what they needed. And then in terms of the IT policies as well and things like best practices, we made sure that anyone working at home had the basics like antivirus on. They had a separate account for people, because you obviously don't want to be working on a file and then your teenage son or toddler come in and accidentally drag and drop that onto an open OneDrive or Google Drive or email it to everyone. And then we followed that up again weeks later with some of the phishing stuff and warning people of a few scams. Some of our clients have the phishing protection, and again they get a newsletter I think it's every Thursday of the month, last Thursday, and yeah, it all added up.
Was it more about the knowledge there and the education for your partners and for your clients to say, look, be aware, this is what the world's changed, right? We know that, right? But just be aware of what might come into your business while you're at home, and just make sure you protect yourself. Just make sure you're a bit more vigilant. Was that sort of the process and the methodology you were trying to get out there?
Yeah, we're conscious that when you send someone a really long email, they're not going to read the entire thing. So it's always better to follow up with subsequent ones or even phone calls and just subtly remind people, have a look at their email flow. Is there anything obvious? Alert them straight away so they can let the rest of the staff know. Yeah, it's because obviously, while our best interests are in IT, at the time these emails and everything else is happening, their interests are in their business and their responsibilities. So it really is a little game by itself of keeping them interested in what you want to protect for their benefit, as well as what need to do to maintain business continuity.
Chris, how did you find that? I know that you went from a couple of thousand out to 250, but then how does that flex? How does that feel inside that business? Because I would have thought it's slightly different for you being such a big organisation, 50 odd sites, and like you said, having cash from 40 grand to £1 million. You must be right for people trying to ransom attack you and all sorts of stuff. How did that feel inside the business?
I think we accepted the fact that security of the business was going to be compromised by making the changes as quick as we were. As much as you'd like to say, sending somebody home, they'll work exactly the same as they did when we were here. As Damien mentioned, it only takes a 4-year-old to start downloading software and clicking on websites, all the different lovely Peppa Pig sites they can go and see. You don't have control of this like you would if they were sat in their office. You have to accept there is going to be some additional exposure. And I think for us as a business, it was a case of saying, okay, how can we mitigate the issues? Is our security as good as it could be? And in the background, try and work out what's our security roadmap for the future. Where are we today? Where do we need to get to make sure that actually, if we are going to have more people working from home, we reduce the effect that we can have. I mean, I suppose one of the advantages of people working from home is you can roll out things much quicker than when they're in the workplace. People have time to be able to adopt these things, and they seem to have more time to read the emails you're sending them rather than they just dismiss them because the guy stood next to them. They seem to be ready to engage. It's like they become more accommodating to change. while they're at home, because they realise what you're trying to do is to make their life better. Whereas before they sat in an office and expected everything to be of a high level, they knew all the systems were going to work every day. It's like as time's gone on, they realise we're not in the same world, so they need to be more accommodating and work with us, almost like in a partnership, to keep the IT systems working. And that's what we've certainly seen, especially in the last 6 weeks with lockdown 2.
Interesting then, interesting. So that leads me on to, I'll stay with you, Chris, because it leads me on to sort of customer experience here. So customer experience in the dealerships, cars still trying to be sold, services still trying to be done, business still trying to be completed around it. What's the customer experience been like, and have you monitored it and managed it compared to how it was before? And you know, you're saying people sometimes can't work at home, they need to be in the office. I get that. And are you going to have a bit of a hybrid working situation around it? Or is it going to be, well, if you need to be in the dealership, you need to be in the dealership, really, and then maybe some of the senior management team can work a little bit more flexibly? What's the thought process moving forward around, first of all, the customer experience, and then how that might differentiate from now to forward?
Well, when we closed the doors and locked them up back in March, the first thing that happened was our customer complaints went through the roof. They were very disappointed that we'd closed our dealerships as instructed.
What, that you'd closed?
Yes.
So this that you'd shut?
Yes, right, absolutely. Okay. So we realised straight away that all we needed to do was give the customers the ability to talk to us. And what we found out was that we could actually talk to the customers, even if it wasn't to do with the sale or the service, just to say we're still here. And during the period in time, you know, going from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3 with 2 lockdowns, the one thing we have learned is you can keep trading and you can keep working. Even into the latest lockdown, where the car industry decided we're not going to close, we are going to be there, we are going to continue trading to the letters of the law. You know, our service departments, we decided, are actually an essential thing that keeps the country running. You know, if cars don't run, people can't get to A to B. You know, everyone's saying you can work from home, you can go to the supermarket, that's what you can do. If your car doesn't run, you can't do any of them things. So we made that decision, and with sales, we operated a click and collect situation. And literally, it was click and collect. It was like collecting your McDonald's hamburger. We gave you your keys and we waved you goodbye. That was it.
Did you see those sales change then? Obviously they changed because people can come into the dealerships, but because people are far more open. Damien, I'll come to you in a second, but people are far more open nowadays about buying stuff online. You know, there's a lot more new car dealerships opening. Kazoo as an example, who it's, you know, that's the car, buy it, that's how much it is, do you want it, I'll deliver it to your door. Did you feel that the customer experience was then saying, oh, we quite like that model, and we're going to run a bit of that as well? I know you get the both, yes, where people want to come and see it, but you must have the other side of it as well, where you think, I know what I want to buy it, happy days.
Absolutely. Well, we've been trying for the last 5 years to transform at least ourselves in the industry to not be a dealership anymore. We're not here to deal. We're not here to, you know, try and rip people off. We are retailers. You know, we're the same as any shop that you go into in the street or any online presence that you go and do. We want to be retailers. And the great thing about this is we've suddenly become retailers, because you don't have that same interaction level. So when people come to us, they come in already fully informed. If they're wanting to buy a car in a pandemic, they have to already know everything before they come to us. All we're doing is completing a transaction. And you know, as long as we can do that transaction in a nice, simple manner, then they're more than happy to buy. We no longer get the people saying, oh, you know, can I get some mats and flaps for it, which used to be always the thing that everyone asked for in a car.
Full tank of fuel. Can I have a tank of fuel with it?
Full tank of fuel, exactly. Yeah. You know, we have our minimum standards now, and we retail cars. We retail, and the rest of the conversation is just about satisfying all the customers' needs nowadays.
Interesting. Damien, same thing. I'll go back to the question really. It's around that customer experience. And how was it managed from your client's point of view? Because you've got different variants of a plethora of clients out there. How did they manage that, and how did you support them? And do you see some of their industry, like Chris, has changed slightly? been trying to change. It sort of forced that change on them. Do you see that in some of your clients as well? Do you see that customer experience being better than it was before?
Yeah. So for our clients' perspective, we've tried to put their client hat on and kind of engage or imagine how they would engage with us and vice versa, and what would they want, and we've tried to deliver that for them. Not quite a click and collect, but we did get that far with laptops of delivering in collections and setups. We extended support hours, didn't charge anything else, made sure that we were there for them, particularly with the additional things of people working from home, childcare. Not everyone has the ability to take a technical assistance call during the day. And likewise with our clients dealing with their clients, they had similar issues. They had to adjust their timescales. So we effectively had to follow suit to match their working day. And that was a big change. We practically started a new type of shift here. We had later lates, earlier earlies, a couple of weekend calls, and it felt good to get everyone up and running in such a short time frame. But then we throttled that back afterwards, and everyone's normal again. So some of those habits have stuck, and some haven't. But
and what do you see? What do you see about the remote working scenario moving forward, Damien? If you look at us here in our business, everybody just about used to being here, but we have got remote workers. We've got people in London, people in Glasgow. So we've always had a bit of engineers would come and go. And salespeople will come and go, work from home as well. We've always had a little bit of that hybrid solution. It's just the way we work. But it's been highlighted even more inside this industry, inside our business, that actually we don't need this big office that we've got anymore, because we might have 6 people in today, and we just don't need it anymore. And are you seeing the same, David, with your clients, where you've definitely got that mix of, Chris is slightly different because some of his people have to be in the site to be able to do the job that they're doing. But what's the predominant around some of your clients? Are they saying it's going to be a hybrid working model working forward, or people are going to be back, or what's the thought process around it?
So some clients are operating a few days in the office, a few days out the office, but it just comes down to role, because there's just such a sheer number of different roles out there that our clients do. Some of them need to be in the office, some are engineers, some are solicitors, some are accountants, and estate agents. It just goes on. They all work in a completely different manner, and there is just no one ticks all box. Some are having hybrid, some can only work in the office, some can just work from home all the time. They just need emails, Teams, and that's it. Whereas others need to be speaking with each other, like we've found in the last month. Actually being in a room with someone, stepping through a project, throwing ideas around is a much easier, healthier way than doing it over a Teams call. You can pick up on people's availability a lot faster when you can see them across the room, and if they're stressed or if they're relaxed, and when the optimum time to almost intercept.
Yeah, I think there's got to be that. It's a challenge around how we manage our people in the workplace, how we do our one-to-ones, how we do our resolutions, how we want some teamwork, how we want some engagement. There has to be that flexibility. We've had to do that here around it. I think that's a challenge around how do we manage our staff, our people, how do we keep them engaged, but also we tend to see, and you probably see the stats same as me, that people tend to work longer hours when they're at home. They tend to log on a bit earlier in the morning. They don't tend to take breaks properly. Yeah, they tend to work later at night. And Chris, you brought this up right at the beginning. It's how do we manage those people to make sure we look after them, the health and well-being in the right way? Because I think sometimes what happens is, sometimes senior management, sometimes people go, well, I don't know what they're doing. I was speaking to someone the other day. I did a podcast the other day, and they were telling me that they were working with a certain client, and they want an hourly update from the staff, from the management. What are you doing every hour? And it was like, okay, well, how do they do any work then? If you've got to give an hourly update, how do they do any work? So I think we've got to let those shackles go, and there's a bit more trust. Yeah, but also I think what we're finding is we've got to look after them a bit better as well. Do you see that, Chris? JCT, do you
Yeah,
see
absolutely.
there's a bit of difference around the health and well-being inside the business?
Yeah. We run 3 times a week online yoga courses. Yet to take part in one myself, but yeah, it's we did a whole well-being session, which was about 6 sessions we did about eating properly, taking proper breaks. We ran that very early in lockdown 1, and certainly we have seen some good reactions to that. Half of our annual appraisal has been moved and shifted from performance and what's coming next year to being how can we maintain your well-being. But we have got certain members who have tried working from home and then have started now feeding back saying, I can't do it. I can't work in that environment. I need to work from the office. And have said, I hope I never have to do that again. So I think there are some people that just won't adapt to this new way of working and will need to have office space in the future.
Yeah, I'm a little bit similar. I struggle at home, I must admit. I just, with everything that got, I've got children, my wife's at home, the dogs, and it's just noisy, and when the children come home at 3:30, it's quite difficult, and you need the space. And I just feel much more comfortable in coming into the office and managing it and working it from here, and having the odd day at home. I just think it's a little bit easier. Last question for us, okay, before we take some questions. Damien, I'll come to you first. What's next? Yeah, what's good? What's bad? How do we see the landscape? Do we see, if I hear this morning, there's a vaccine, it's out, it's ready to rock and roll, but we're going to be in it until March or April. Do we think then that all of a sudden, hey, we're all back to work again, super duper, and that's it? Or do we think we've made a sea change, a shift, and actually that's not just from remote working, but what's happening in the business environment and the landscape? What do we see?
Yeah. I have no idea. It's just been a wild card. What seems like
I'm not asking you.
I think we just need to keep things flexible. It's about choosing the right solution that isn't rigid in the future. You can bend and twist it a little bit and adapt it and tweak it and change it over time, and tailoring that to each client and how they operate. I know there's a lot of people, as Chris mentioned, like he adapted Teams in the early days. I think something like that, and choosing the right solution, such as Teams, rather than another lesser known video presentation system that you send an invite to, people click it, and no one has a Scooby-Doo what it is. It's about reducing impact on clients of having to learn something, and keep it really flexible and common out there. And almost even when you get a new employee, as an example, we've had clients that took on new starters in lockdown working from home. I think that'd be one of my nightmares, having to start a job locked in a cupboard at home almost and trying to learn it. And it's those little things for clients. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have lost jobs. There's a lot of people that are going to be going into new roles, and we need to find a way of helping people remotely. That's what we're really trying to focus on at the moment, on the basis that it does last a long time, and we can't do our site visits and a presentation to 30, 40 people of how this new shiny piece of technology works.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, same question. What do we think?
I think we're going to, as with everything in life, we're going to swing too far one way. I think we're going to go too far with the remote working. I think we're going to see that this is the solution, this is the way forward, and I think we're going to push the barriers too far in that direction, and then I think we're going to end up, it'll swing back to some sort of balanced area. But I think that'll probably take 2 or 3 years for us to get to where that balance and feeling is. I think there's still going to be a lot of people who are very scared about going outdoors, scared going back into dealerships, retailers, and we've got to be ready to adapt. The flexibility is absolutely key for the future, and I think we've got to go back and we've got to look at a lot of the stuff we've done has been quite knee-jerk, it's been quite rushed. It's now a case of going back and saying, we've done this, now let's do it properly. Let's get people working and feeling comfortable. Let's find out, were these the right decisions? They were the right decisions at the time because they were required. But now it's a case of saying, what was the correct decision? Let's get this right. Let's finish jobs off and let's make things absolutely right for the future.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question in sort of and how I did, how I framed it was, you know, we heard yesterday about Arcadia going into administration. You know, 23,000 people potentially losing their jobs, that sort of stuff. Not particularly a different change in how they've always run their businesses in a lot of years. And I was speaking to someone who asked his wife actually the other day about what do you buy from these services online or not? And the answer for her was, I don't buy from them online because they've all got a different website. So I just go to ASOS because everything's under one banner. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought that process of, you know, Dorothy Perkins, Top Man, Top Shop, this, that, and the other, all owned by the same group, but all have different websites. So the reason I've sort of framed the question like that was, you know, is it, you know, is that the old way of working? I know the high streets has got a tough market. I'm not knocking them by any means, but it's a tough market out there at the spot. And Chris, you sort of alluded to it a little bit earlier, where you've got a retailer and you're doing a lot more online. You know, you've been pushed. You've wanted to do it for a while, but the market's actually come to you a little bit rather than the other way around. Do we see more of that? Do we see more about, yes, about flexibility around it from a user experience, a customer experience, but also a working experience that's that flexibility? And like I said, we might go one way, but we might just settle back into where we are.
Absolutely. We've been trying for about 2 years to get to a situation where it doesn't matter how you interact with us as a customer, whether you want to walk through the showroom, pick up the phone, go online, however you want to do it, you can step in and out of that process backward and forward, and the service level we give you should be the same. So we've found one of the things that customers have really enjoyed during this time is actually to be taken through the online process by one of our sales executives. So even though they feel like they're transacted online, at all points in time, they're being guided through every step of the process as they would in a showroom. So it's an interactive online purchase experience, which is slightly different to what everyone thinks the car industry is going to do, which is you click a button, buy, and that's it done. I think it's such big values, you know, you can't imagine anyone ever buying a house online. So why would you spend 30 or 40,000 pounds in the same way?
No, I get that. There's those questions around that you need answering sometimes, don't you? You know, you need to speak to someone to ask, you know, it's great, I sort of know what I want, but can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I suppose that's where that hybrid model for the working environment comes in, from a online retailer type, but with a customer support executive looking after him, I suppose, handling them through. Damien, same for you, really. Do you see that shift, and that do we understand that the business leaders, they're not always boards where your customers, but the business leaders are actually going to understand what the shift is going to be, and they're going to be open to that shift and that move?
Yeah, there's some of our clients.
Or do you think they're going to go? Or do you think they're going to go, right, it's all over now, back to work, get back in, and that's it, it's all over? What do you think?
No, there's some clients are definitely making a change for the better. Like you say, they're seeing it as a new challenge and a new way of taking the lead in their sector, perhaps, and almost leading that, because they need to. I think other people will look at them and go, you know what, that's a really good way of delivering this business. And actually, in the future, there's people that aren't going to be able to come to a showroom. This would help them buy from us with that model. And there's a lot of businesses applying that. We're trying to change as well how we do things here, not to quite that extreme. But yeah, I think it's really important to change, move with the times, and just more importantly, just be flexible and do what's best for the client. Because
that's great.
Yeah,
Flexible. Yeah. Al, have you got any questions for us?
Actually, not today. Very comprehensive, gents. Thank you. I mean, I speak to you all on a daily basis, and I've made 2 pages of notes based on what you've said. So, very insightful. Thanks very much. Thanks for your time, everyone, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Emma.
welcome.